program, or about the session rather.
Sure. Okay. Let's see.
La Crosse, Wisconsin. Cool.
Yeah.
Angola, Azerbaijan, Luanda, Angola, Jamestown, North Carolina, India, Conakry and Guinea.
Oh, intriguing.
I hope I pronounced that right. Can't tell if it's Conakry or Conakry.
I'm not sure.
Apologize. Kerala, Zamfara State in Nigeria, Mozambique,
Hmm.
Sri Lanka, Uganda, Pakistan, Philippines. Thank you for joining from the Philippines. I know it's extremely late or possibly very early, depending on your perspective. I think I saw Muscat. Arietta from the DC area. Suriname in South America.
I don't know that.
I had just seen a brief item about Suriname on TikTok, I think it was, talking about the empty area of the country between the main part of Suriname and Venezuela. Defense in depth to make sure that territorial claims don't get enforced, because the Venezuelan army could never get through the jungle there. Yeah. So thank you all for this.
Okay.
And let's get started. I'm going to go ahead, and timer has expired. Obviously, it's time to go ahead. Just a moment here. I will share main presentation. And this is going to be a conversation between me and Brian. So we're focusing on our conversation on the content of the slides. They're just there for illustration. But this is, hold on a second. Zoom, it's me when I switch screens. So I'll be back in just a second.
Sure. Yeah, still seeing more.
I think it has a vendetta against me.
It does.
Go. All right. Apologize for that again. I don't know what ancestor of Zoom I offended, but it's sworn revenge. So we're going to be doing a program overview about Lean Six Sigma certification with a program. Oh, it's doing it again. I hope that this is not going to be. Hold on a second.
Okay.
University of Amherst at Eisenberg Management. And this is new.
And I think we're still waiting for Stuart to rejoin, but if you are joining us in the last few minutes here, I'd love to hear where you're coming from. Pop that into the chat. It's got a wide range of participants from around the world. Makes these sessions really exciting. So we're glad everyone's able to join us. I know for some of you, it's probably either very early, very late. So hopefully make this engaging and informative, so you get some benefits from joining us. And Stuart's back.
Yeah, I am back. Doesn't say I'm Stuart anymore, but I will fix that later. So the program overview is going to talk about Lean Six Sigma. Program is doing it again. I have to send this over to you and ask you to share your screen. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have the information I sent you yesterday?
Let me just check.
I emailed this to you.
Oh, you did? Okay, wonderful. Yeah, let me just bring that up real quick then. Okay. And oops, get rid of it.
Very sorry for that. This is something new. This is
It happens, right? Technology. Sometimes it's
yeah.
your
uh,
best friend. Other times it can be a real challenge to work with. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. That's not the one.
Oh, this not. Oh, sorry. You know what? My bad.
I emailed this to you last night. I'm sorry about that.
All right. Let me see if I can find that. Hang on one sec. I think you emailed me an email, but I'm not sure it included the attachment. You might need to just quickly resend that.
All right, let me
But yes,
do
armed
that.
with that, I can do the presenting. I guess yeah, I was showing the one we did the last time, right? The another
Very
UMass.
similar, but hold on a second here.
As you can tell, Stuart and I do this a lot.
Yeah, it just never kicks me off this many times. Okay, sent.
Yeah, that's so unusual. It's like you said, it's got a vendetta against you.
Yes, and you are correct. I did not send the deck.
As you're gathering that information, looks like we got a lot of Bangladesh, Jordan, India, Kurdistan, Zambia.
And let's talk about while we're having this happen. Talk about Lean Six Sigma in general. What is Lean Six Sigma and why is it important?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, almost like the name suggests, we've got Lean and we've got Six Sigma. Now they partner very effectively, but they really represent two different bodies of thought. Lean places a lot of emphasis on waste reduction. How do we become more efficient? How do we identify areas that are maybe causing delays or creating defects? Just really being actively aware of things that are making it harder for us to deliver value efficiently and effectively. The Six Sigma part is where in settings where we've got lots of rich data, think of a manufacturing plant producing a lot of widgets or items for market. Six Sigma gives us a lot of detailed data analytic tools so we can really understand how well is a process behaving, is it conforming to a standard that we have. And when we blend these two together, Lean Six Sigma, this is where we really unlock a lot of value. We get an opportunity to kind of identify where there are waste areas so we can target them, make sure we're kind of finding the ways to be most effective and efficient. So that's really what it stands for. And I know you mentioned you've got some background having worked with this way back in the day, right, Stuart? Oh, and do I lose you again? I might have.
I am back.
Okay, yay. Yes, I was just talking a little bit about Lean Six Sigma
Yeah,
and sort of what it recognizes. But I think as you and I have talked a little bit before, this really has its roots back in, the Japanese manufacturing period in the 50s and going on to the 60s. Remember the Japanese miracle as they came out of World War II and some of the devastation they experienced in that huge war. So this is really where the roots of lean came from and has just been expanded and now made its way into so many industries around the world.
yeah. A lot of the Japanese manufacturing miracle in quality management and production operations management came from American sources, people who were brought over to Japan after World War II to help rebuild the economy there. And these are people who had developed theories and techniques that they couldn't get American manufacturers to listen to because American manufacturers could sell anything, regardless of how expensive it was or what the quality was. But the Japanese had to be more efficient, and they really took on to that. It came back to the United States in the 1980s as a trend for Kaizen and management techniques of manufacturing. And Six Sigma developed in parallel in terms of statistical process control. and looking at how to keep processes operating within the tolerances for good quality deliverable product, looking for variations, adjusting your systems so that you can prevent problems. And the old adage that came out of the manufacturing quality revolution is quality is free, because if you produce quality products, then you don't have to deal with customer complaints, you don't have to repair the products, don't have to send out replacements. So and you don't have to scrap ones that don't work. So all of those cost factors, all of those waste factors uh, are
That's really
eliminated, and that's where the lean comes from, right?
right. Yeah, exactly right. So, all right. So, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I see your screen now.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I think we're ready now. Just want to kind of go through some of the ground rules and
Yes, I apologize to our audience for all of this delay up front. I'll troubleshoot my system after the webinar, but in the meantime, put your questions in the Q&A box, please. The session is being recorded. We will send you a follow-up email with a link to this recording and bonus offer. That's actually not part of this webinar, so we'll send a link with the recording. Please go on ahead to the next slide.
you bet.
All right. We've talked a little bit about why Six Sigma. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I am going to ask you a few questions along the way uh, through the poll, so just keep an eye out for that. We'll talk about this program in particular, what it offers, why it's different from your types of certification and training programs you might have looked at. And we'll talk specifically about what makes it effective for you. We'll look a little bit at past learners, testimonials, and we'll talk to you about your enrollment steps, the cost of the program, how to get started, when we're scheduling the next cohort, and then we'll move into Q&A. We'll answer your questions live with Brian here. Brian, if you want to go ahead, I will think to launch this first poll. And we want to understand in the audience here, you've been gracious enough to tell us where you're from. Can you tell us how much experience you have? And this is a factor because Lean Six Sigma certification does require that you have some experience in the different levels of certification that you can earn based on the experience you bring to the process. Is that fair to say, Brian?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're really gonna, particularly if you want to pursue the formal certifications that give you those acronyms at the end of your title, and you put on a LinkedIn profile, etc. You will be expected to have 3 to 5 years of experience. And really, what we're going to look for is we're going to draw from that experience so you can build out a really powerful Lean Six Sigma case study.
Yeah, and a lot of you, more than half of our audience today, have more than 5 years of experience in the workplace. Some of you are still students, and some of you are in between in the first few years of your career. This, as Brian said, program has a lot to offer every one of you, and for some of you, it will give you the opportunity to immediately follow up on green belt and black belt certification. So let's move on.
Okay. Well, this is me.
And this is you. This is please tell everybody about yourself.
Absolutely. So as you can see, I've got a lot of those same acronyms after my name. PMP is the project management professional. PGMP is program management. We've got an agile certified professional. That's a very trendy area. So I spend a lot of time these days, particularly as an agile coach. I also have my Lean Six Sigma certifications and have taught that course a number of times. And all this is sort of a reflection of the fact that I've been doing this work for a long time, over 25 years, primarily in the project program management domain. But that's been across a number of different industries and organizations. You might pick up possibly a little bit of a accent, a Texas accent perhaps, because I am based in Houston, Texas. Yeehaw. And as a result, do a lot of work with some of the super majors, companies like ExxonMobil, BP. Although more recently, getting a lot of opportunity to work with healthcare organizations, Cigna, Humana. There's a lot of interest in those domains, particularly because they're dealing with vast numbers of not just customers and people that need those services, but data that comes from it. So they're using a lot of these techniques, Lean Six Sigma, both to find ways to kind of streamline healthcare services they're providing to their customers, but also analyzing that data using some of these Lean Six Sigma techniques that we heard Stuart mention, so they can understand that their processes are being, uniformly, consistently applied. So really interesting to kind of see some of these ideas and techniques and how they're being applied in these organizations. In addition, I do a lot of work with Simplilearn. Happy to have been working with them. Gosh, I think I'm coming up to maybe my 10-year anniversary here soon. So I've had a lot of exposure working both in developing content as well as delivering sessions like this, as well as just delivering training certification sessions.
Thank you so much. I always am very grateful that we're fortunate to get you in one of these sessions, because you bring a lot of background and experience. So let's move to the next. And this is where we get to brag a little bit on Simplilearn. Simplilearn is the #1 online bootcamp. We have helped over 5 million professionals worldwide in the last 13 years add to their digital skill sets. We specialize in digital skills for the digital economy, ranging from project management to data science to artificial intelligence, machine learning, to digital marketing, to blockchain, to full stack web development, really the entire range of various digital skills. And our website showcases that. But we were proud of various awards. We won most recently the Silver Award, customer service with the Stevie organization, top 20, consistently top 20 company for IT and technical training by Training Industry. And we got pretty far in the EdTech Awards. So our products are recognized and our services are recognized as world leading. And we're very proud of that. So let's go to, again, why Six Sigma, Lean Six, careers in Lean Six Sigma. And just to clarify what the Six Sigma refers to is statistics. When you look at the normal curve, the bell curve, and you look at the standard deviation from the mean, sigma refers to that standard deviation, and each level of standard deviation you moves you farther out the curve. So when you're 6 sigma from that mean, you are at the extreme narrow tails of the curve, either above or below the mean. That means that if you can reduce your waste and your errors to that level, 6 sigma from the mean, that means that your error rates are extremely small and your quality rate therefore is very high. And as I said before, quality is free. So you're avoiding all of that waste, and that feeds back to the lean principle. So did I describe that correctly?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a couple things just kind of maybe heighten that when we think of those lean Six Sigma, those Six Sigma deviation from that mean. If you get to that point, you're dealing with about 3 defects in a million. So you're really getting to the point that you have a very efficient, effective, high quality process that you're operating. So this is particularly important in domains where you are producing maybe manufactured items, and you want to ensure that they have high degree of consistency. So when you ship them out, they work the way it's expected. And just as you highlighted, there's no returns, there's no customer support or service issues. Your brand is really important, so you don't want it associated with poor quality items. So this is why a lot of organizations really put a heavy emphasis on the Six Sigma part of this, the statistical analysis of their processes And that fits into this lean concept about how can we become more efficient by reducing waste and inefficiencies.
Yeah. And this, we think of this as, if you're going to produce 1 million bolts that are going to go into automobiles, or you're going to produce um, 1 million radios or 1 million iPhones, um, and you only want 3 of those to be defective per million. That's one environment where this applies, but it really applies well beyond just the manufacturing environment. You can use this type of thinking in pretty much any um, service or industry, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, healthcare, great example. One of the goals of most of the large healthcare providers here in the U.S., of course, is to reduce the number of illnesses and types of injuries that might be occurring. They look to data to do that. So
Yeah.
this is where they're really kind of analyzing what are the deviations, particularly when it comes to drug treatment programs and types of responses to different types of medical services. So this data is so important to so many different sectors. Amazon uses this heavily. Google uses this heavily. I know everyone's been excited about Chat GPT. Well, a lot of that is pulling data from these large, data sources and then analyzing them with some of these same statistical models.
Yep. And that brings up an interesting point about ChatGPT, just as a sidelight. Um, this type of thinking of defect reduction is going to have to be part of the
Right.
development of how people use ChatGPT, because one of the things we know is that its error rate is far
Right.
higher than three
It's brilliant.
mistakes per million. There was a recent report that said that use ChatGPT to write economics papers actually made up about 30% of the citations of other papers that it. So it was inventing them out of thin air, so to speak. And
Wow.
so if you publish a paper where all the citations are not real, uh, you're not doing anybody a service. So
Right.
we're going to see this type of quality thinking going into even areas like artificial intelligence, and it's really one of the most important aspects of this type of thinking. What is DMAIC?
Yeah, so this is the methodology that we often see applied within Lean Six Sigma space. And it's really sort of a series of steps we're going to look to. We're going to define the problem. We're going to measure how do we know if the problem, is being solved. We want to do some analysis and interpretation. And then we want to control. We want to actually find ways in which we can adjust our processes so they conform more to that Six Sigma standard. So that's a framework, a methodology that's used to kind of help us really kind of understand what problem is it we need to tackle, which is the heaviest, most important problem that we want to look at first, most impactful one, and get that addressed. So this is all part of this whole Lean Six Sigma family of techniques.
Thank you. So let's move, I think, on to the next. We have some interesting questions in the chat.
Okay.
Um, and just to make sure that we've answered, I think we've covered the purpose of Lean Six Sigma and how it's used. But if you have more questions about that, put those in the Q&A. We'll revisit that when we get to the Q&A section. And all right. Uh, so I'm going to modify the chat now so that we have the ability to talk to just us, the hosts, because we're going to try to focus in on this. But I do appreciate the engagement that's going on, because you're getting some people um, sharing their knowledge, and we'll have a chance to do that later when we get to the Q&A. I'll re-enable it that way.
Great, great.
Um, okay. Demand for quality managers is soaring. I'm using the U.S. numbers, these similar numbers around the world. Um, the, this is, and we have a question, where are we from? I'm based in San Francisco, California. Simplilearn is headquartered in Bangalore, India, as well as San Francisco and Singapore. So we have 3 headquarter locations now.
Hmm.
And we had so quality manager jobs are growing over the next couple of years by 10%. There's If you look at quality manager job openings just in the United States, um, Indeed lists 10,400 jobs. You might want to look in your local country at the Indeed or whatever local uh, job board that you use and see how many listings there are for people in quality management position. Again, quality management is just one of the positions that uses this type of understanding, right? If you're not in a quality management position, you're still able to make excellent use of Lean Six Sigma. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think the quality manager role is an important one for many organizations. But these ideas, these concepts, I mean, they can apply in any industry, any role. As you heard, I'm a project program manager, agile coach. I use a lot of Lean and Six Sigma every day in those capacities. So it absolutely is very relevant. Again, in many other areas of an organization.
Yeah, and one of my dearest longtime colleagues, we worked together for a number of years, and he makes his living as a consultant in the lean space.
Hmm.
And his biggest part of his business is to run education programs for companies that go from the CEO all the way down to every worker on the factory floor, or every worker in the call center, or every worker in the hospital, because he understands that everyone needs to know what this way of thinking is about, and good ideas for waste reduction and quality control can come from anywhere in an organization. So don't think of this as just qualifying you for a quality manager job. It will, but you have ways to apply this in many other parts of industry, or many other roles that you may be in. Let's go
Right.
on.
Okay.
So again, looking at Glassdoor, and you look at just randomly looked at quality manager companies hiring, and these are some of the names that popped up at the top of the list.
Hmm.
You can see Gilead is a biosciences company. So
Hmm.
it is in healthcare, but it's one of the advanced biotech companies that creates drugs using chemical methods, creating artificial enzymes and artificial antibodies and things like that. So very high end. Buyer, of course, is fertilizers, chemicals, medications. Wells Fargo, one of the largest banks in the United States. Kaiser Permanente, one of the largest healthcare organizations in the United States. And of course, these others you don't really need much of introduction. Abbott, of course, is a huge healthcare and pharmaceutical manufacturing company. So it produces medical instruments, medical supplies. So again, you think about uh, the need for quality control. If you open a medical supply, a catheter, or some other instrument while you're performing a surgery, you want to be sure that it will do the job you're going to do, because you don't really have time to find another one. So
Right. Yeah.
these are all critical areas, but you can see that there's a big difference between what Amazon uses this kind of thinking for versus what Adobe or Google or Kaiser, Wells Fargo or Bayer might use it for. So it really applies across this broad spectrum. Let's go on.
Okay.
So you can tell us about uh, these different types of things and how they relate to why somebody who's going into this kind of a role, why somebody who's using this type of thinking in their existing role needs to have these kinds of things in their toolkit.
Yeah, and that's a great metaphor. Think of these as tools in a toolkit. If you're working as someone in Lean Six Sigma capacity, you're going to want to draw upon these. So we've already heard about DMAIC, which is a framework, a methodology we can use to really analyze problems and identify the right solutions. Agile, a space that I'm very near and close to, is so important for finding ways to enable teams of people doing the work to identify continuous improvement opportunities. And that's a big aspect of Lean Six Sigma. We're never really finished understanding how we can be better, how we can improve. So Agile is a great set of techniques and practices that enable the people doing the work to continuously improve. Just as you said, quality is free, but we really have to embed quality across the people doing the work, across the whole organization. Now we've got other frameworks that we're going to draw upon. We've got the project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK. So this is how the Project Management Institute has sort of laid out the best, most effective way to approach projects and programs. We've got Lean Six Sigma itself, and this is where we're going to learn a lot about the different types of waste that exist and how to identify them, how to reduce them, the statistical techniques we can use to analyze large data sets so we can understand how a process is behaving. And then we've got a collection of tools that are going to help us both gather information and manage work, things like Jira. That's a work management product that allows us to understand what work teams and people need to perform, the priority of that. We've got Minitab, which is a very powerful statistical analysis product that you can use to dig into large data sets, identify some of the patterns that you see there, the statistical variance, and understand ways in which you can manage that. And then we've got products that some of us might already be quite familiar with in the Microsoft Office suite. A lot of times we're going to take this information from Minitab and or DMAIC and Lean Six Sigma techniques, and we need to present that. So we're going to use PowerPoint, maybe a Word document, and of course, Microsoft Project, a great way to organize a large, complex work initiatives that have lots of different work streams and people involved. So all these are going to fit into that toolkit that you mentioned earlier, Stuart. And we're going to show everyone who participates in this program how to kind of leverage these tools in the right setting to get the results they need.
Thank you. So let's go ahead.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask the second poll question here. And this poll question asks why our folks in the audience have not yet undertaken this kind of certification program. What stopped you from doing this? Because we know that you're here to learn about this program, what it can do to help you become expert in techniques of Lean Six Sigma. So how is it that you haven't done that before? What are the things that have held you back? We'll leave this open for another 10 seconds. We'll give you a chance. You can put in more than one of the answers and then hit submit. And we'll close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the two main concerns of the folks in our audience today are getting practical exposure, being able to say, here's actual examples of the work I did that show you that I can understand and do this work, use these tools. And the other is finding enough time in a work schedule, be able to take on a program and effectively learn without interrupting regular life and your career. So let's talk a little bit about that. Move forward. So the ideal program is going to address those problems of being flexible enough to meet your schedule, having hands-on practice that you can use to demonstrate your practical experience. It's going to have a comprehensive curriculum that is designed to meet industry requirements because you want to learn the things that companies are looking for in their workforce, and you want to have an environment where you get to learn from real people with real live interaction rather than just watching videos and hoping that you picked up what's in the material. So, uh, is this a pretty fair thumbnail of what ideal program would be,
Yeah,
Brian?
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And in fact, we heard that in the poll, right? There's two things that came out. One is I want to learn something practical so I can apply it. I'm looking for a program that's going to satisfy that. I think this program is a really good fit. Second part though is the flexibility of schedule. And I can relate to this. I got my MBA after I finished my degree, but I was working full time. I had a family that needed attention. So it was very difficult to manage the demands of pursuing that education with all the other responsibilities that life brings upon us. So the whole intent of this program is flexibility.
Yeah.
So just as you pointed out, you've got great ways to kind of learn online. You can do that in a lot of different venues, using everything from a tablet to your mobile phone to your computer. But you also have the opportunity to connect with and engage with live instructor-led sessions. And just as you pointed out, that can be really valuable to have a place to ask questions, kind of make it a little bit more engaging and interesting to kind of pursue your learning. So this program absolutely does all those things.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about the postgraduate program in Lean Six Sigma from University of Massachusetts at Amherst, in the Eisenberg School of Management. We'll talk a little bit about them in a moment. It's also powered by KPMG, and KPMG is one of the world's leading management consulting firms, and has just incredible expertise in business and helping businesses. This is a 6-month program. We say it's 5 to 10 hours a week. There's class sessions. When you have live classes, those are what, 8 hours a week?
Right? That's right.
Usually either 2 hours a night on weeknights for 4 nights, or else on weekends, 4 hours Saturday, 4 hours Sunday.
Hmm.
And they'll be aligned to a schedule where it'll be as accessible as possible for people, all different time zones. But um, again, we talk about the industry aligned curriculum. We'll show you that. A lot of hands-on work, right? We're going to go through a little bit of that with our demonstration learning management system.
Hmm. Yep, absolutely. And that's so important, like you pointed out.
And then the live virtual classrooms that let you interact with your instructors like Brian, but also with your peers, with your cohort of fellow students. And that's really good because sometimes you just want to be able to say, did you get the same thing out of that lecture that I got? Um, you want to be able to have that kind of way to compare notes. Um, Again, we say it's flexible to fit your lifestyle because other than the scheduled classes, you can do any of the work anytime on a digital platform. This is all delivered through digital means. Access it on your desktop, your laptop. Much of it, as Brian said, you can do on your tablet or your smartphone in terms of watching some of the pre-recorded material to get prepared for classes. And so it's all there, all available 24/7. It's got a support network behind it that makes sure that even if you're working on a project at 3 o'clock in the morning for some reason, there's somebody who can answer a question if necessary. So let's go on and talk about what you end up with. The Eisenberg School of Management issues their certificate. It's co-signed by the KPMG and Simplilearn. And because we're the delivery partner, our job is to provide the platform and the methodology for delivering this to you. The curriculum and the brain power behind it is from the university and from KPMG. So you receive a certificate that is backed up by their full faith and credit, so to speak. Um, you can receive 3 credits transferable to an online MBA. So Brian said he got his MBA while he was working. I got mine while I was working. And if you wanted to go into the UMass Amherst online MBA program, which is separate from this and delivered by UMass, you can transfer some credit from completing this program to help you get a little bit of a kickstart to your MBA. Um, that's a pretty pretty cool benefit, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah, yeah. It gives you kind of a nice learning path to follow.
Yeah, and it illustrates also the fact that this type of skill is an important management skill.
Mm.
So it's not considered just the domain of quality managers, as I mentioned before. It's something that is really important for people going into general management, senior management, executive management to understand. You also get ability to interact with the alumni association, and you get preparation if you want to take the formal tests for Lean Six Sigma, Green Belt, and Black Belt certifications. We prepare you for those. Um, the certifying organizations have some other requirements you have to fulfill, as I mentioned before, in terms of experience and that type of thing. But in terms of what you need to know for the tests, the formal tests, this pretty much covers that, right?
Yes, absolutely. So you'll be in a position to sit down, take that exam, and get these credentials, and put them on your LinkedIn profile and attach it to your resume. So yes, you'll definitely leave ready to pass those exams.
Yeah, I've got Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. I have not progressed Black Belt. So
Okay, okay,
let's move on.
sure.
And as I mentioned, University of Amherst. This is a really old, well-respected, and prestigious institution. One of the leading public universities in the United States. Has a world-class reputation, and the Eisenberg School of Management was founded in that post-war era when management theory was changing. So some schools of management were formed at the end of the 19th century, uh, brought some new types of analytical thinking to management. The Eisenberg School of Management came in when whole new idea of revolutionizing business was changing in the post-war era. So they have a very excellent reputation and history of almost 75 years now. And we look at the University of Massachusetts offering you certificates, as we showed you. It gives you master classes, or you get to hear directly from faculty, and it prepares you for the certification tests. So this is something that people will be able to be proud of and show off, on their resume, right, Brian?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Very well recognized. In fact, it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, your employer or someone looking at your resume seeing UMass Amherst, they're going to immediately recognize that as a top tier institution. It's got global recognition. So yeah, great to have this as something on your resume.
Thank you. And let's talk about KPMG again. KPMG, one of the big four consulting firms. There used to be the big seven accounting firms in the world. Over the years, over the decades, they went into management consulting and consolidated. So now there's big four. KPMG is one of them, operates in over 100 countries. In this program, it offers master classes, it offers Ask Me Anything sessions, it provides real world case studies drawn from their experience in business, and it also mentors you during the final capstone project of this program. We'll be talking about what that is, but it's really important that you get that kind of experience, because that will be one of the best examples of practical experience you'll be able to show off. So this is a really important part of the program, Brian, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, and I think the way you're describing it kind of really should help everyone understand. This is sort of what ties everything together. This capstone project, all the techniques you've been learning around DMAIC and Lean Six Sigma, and the tools you've been learning about. The Microsoft projects and the Minitab, etc. Well, you're going to leverage all that and
Yeah.
you're going to apply it to a real world case study, something that is contemporary, something that organizations, enterprises are dealing with today, and apply these skills in a very intense, comprehensive capstone project. And this is, I think, going to specifically address the question a lot of people had initially, which is, I'm looking for something that's going to give me something very practical. And this is going to be very hands-on. It's going to be, you'll be mentored by an instructor who's going to help you craft this, develop it to the point that it can be a showcase of what you've learned and how you can apply these skills to, you know, a real world problem. So yeah, really the capstone project is sort of the grand finale, you know, so this is where we end up bringing ourselves to and use that to really demonstrate what you've learned.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that the person mentoring you is going to be a consultant from KPMG who has done this kind of work in industry. So they'll be able to guide you to where you can find the best approach to your solution. They're not going to tell you how to do it or what to do, but they're going to be able to keep you from falling down rabbit holes or dead ends, blockers or doubts. So let's move on.
Okay.
Got a question. I just saw somebody pop up in the chat. We will be sending a link to this recording to you in an email afterwards. So keep an eye out for that in the next day or two. Meanwhile, to get into this program, you do not have to have a programming background. So there's some digital tools that you'll be using, but you don't have to be a programmer or an expert in digital tools. Pretty much everybody today knows how to do things like Microsoft Office and how to use the web, that type of thing, which is why you're here on a webinar. But but you don't really have to have much more knowledge than that going into the program. However, you do have to have a bachelor's degree. It can be in any discipline, doesn't have to be in operations, management, computer science, any of the technical areas. It can be in liberal arts or any other area. The other thing you need is 5 years of work experience. So this program is really for those folks who in the initial poll said that they've got more than 5 years of work experience. For the rest of you, there's a lot of other programs that we have that can get you into the process and train for this type of thing. But this particular program has that requirement. So let's move on. Talk about how the program prepares you. And we built this, we show it as a staircase because it really is a step-by-step process, isn't it, Brian?
It really is, yeah. And it's sort of emphasizing the fact that we want to establish a solid foundation that we can continue to grow and develop your skills in this space. One thing that I think makes this particularly powerful tool too as well is that this it's a cohort, and really what it means, you will be joining this this session with a group of your peers. You're all starting at the same point, so you have this induction session, get a chance to meet who you're working with. And as we can see from just who we have participating today, what makes it, I think, really exciting is oftentimes you're working with people from around the world, bringing different industry and organizational experience, but even different cultural perspectives. And that can be, I think, very illuminating, very valuable, particularly if you're interested in kind of expanding your career. So we established that, you know, in our induction session, get you oriented around what to expect, how to take advantage of the tooling, the Simplilearn learning management system, and then rapidly get you into understanding and learning these concepts. So we start you off with lean management, really get you comfortable with what that represents, then get you into some tooling like Minitab, and then really start prepping you for the Lean Six Sigma
Pardon me.
areas. Excuse us. So this is a really important part of this. Now, if you do want to kind of take that next step and get those formal certifications, you'll be positioned to take those exams. And then we bring you back together to get that capstone project completed. And then notice on the right-hand side, we have some electives. So you've got some different optional paths you can pursue as well. We've got these, of course, these master classes offered by KPMG in different industries, led by experts in those spaces. We've got digital transformation, Lean Six Sigma, and healthcare, which I talked a bit about, how you can apply it in technology domains, So lots of opportunities to kind of find those areas that maybe are a little more interesting to you, or maybe you have a little bit more of a background in. So this sort of makes it very comprehensive, but also kind of a flexible program that really you can sculpt to meet your specific goals.
Yeah, and I should point out the electives are included in the cost of the program. So
Oh,
we
good.
encourage you to take as many of those as you have interest in and have time to take, because they really add a lot of value and flavor to the program. Again, as Brian said, it's up to you based on your particular time availability and your level of interest. So you can tailor the program with these electives as you wish. Let's move on. We got a couple of examples of case studies, and I don't expect that people are going to try to read all of these, but I'll just point out the different areas. Best Buy merging their Lean Six Sigma efforts with innovation. So this is looking at a case study that happened at Best Buy where they wanted to understand how waste reduction, quality improvement would factor into their innovation areas for new services, new product areas, new store designs. Air preheater performance improvement using the domatic technology to be able to improve an aspect of a product's performance. Looking at service business of Caesars Casinos, which is basically an entertainment and hospitality business, and looking at how to apply lean principles, waste reduction in that area. So again, not a manufacturing environment, right, Brian? That's
Yeah,
kind of the opposite.
almost, yes.
Uh, there is a production line and feel to it, but it's a very different kind of production line than we're
We're familiar with,
think
yeah.
of in factory. And then uh, quality at the Akshaya Patra Foundation, which is a charitable foundation in India. And this was a way for them to look at how to use their resources more efficiently to serve more potential clients. So um, they serve food to needy children, and the more efficiently they can do that, the more children they can help. So this is another area where we aren't thinking of this as necessarily a area limited to for-profit business enterprises. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent observation. I mean, these techniques apply for profit, nonprofit, for different industries. I mean, it's fascinating to see the hospitality industry represented here with Caesars Casinos. But the same is true for Best Buy, and how to use these techniques to innovate, bring new products quickly to the market, satisfy customer interest and demands. So lots of very interesting real world contemporary case studies. And again, as we mentioned, you will be paired with a KPMG leading industry expert who has been is familiar and has been applying these techniques for many, many years. So you're going to be able to draw upon that expertise in addition to what you've been learning through the courses that you've been taking.
Okay. And to just reiterate what Brian talked about, in capstone projects, you can choose one project out of 6 different options in different business domains, industry domains, different types of problems, and you then solve that real world business problem for that project. And you do it hands-on. You do it with the guidance of your KPMG mentor, and you end up with something that you can then show off in your portfolio, show off to people. That's impressive to potential employers, isn't it, Brian? I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that term portfolio becomes really important here because there's going to be lots of examples of work that you want to show to prospective employers, or maybe your current employer looking for an opportunity to kind of advance in the organization. They're going to want to see examples. So this is great to kind of, complete and feel confident that it really represents your skills, and then sort of bring this out. You've got a portfolio, just like an artist, you reach into it, you kind of showcase something that really speaks to what that employer, that hiring person is interested in seeing, and use that kind of advance your career.
yeah. we talked about the different 6 choices you have. Here's a couple of them. One is looking at customer dissatisfaction scores. How
Mm,
would GoToMeeting, producer of one of the online meeting platforms, how would they deal with that problem of bad interactions? They're producing, you think about them as a production environment, they're producing interactions with their clients, with people who use their service, and they want to reduce the number of defective or uh, improper interactions that cause customer dissatisfaction. So that's one possible project. Another one, looking at a hospital and how to redesign the flow of care delivery and patient transport to make the process more efficient. I'll give you a anecdote from my friend who I mentioned earlier, was working with a hospital looking at the number of surgeries that the hospital could perform. And of course, the more surgeries that the hospital can perform with its available surgical suites, the more revenue it can produce, as well as the more patients it can help. And he realized, helped them understand that their difficulty turning around a hospital room for another surgery was that they assigned one cleaner to the surgical suite um, to do all the preparation to get the room ready for the next operation. One cleaner could do that in 4 hours. He pointed out that if you invest in putting 4 cleaners to work to finish that job in 1 hour, that you can uh, double or triple the number of surgeries you can do. So it was a pretty amazing observation. And this is the type of kind of problem that this capstone project addresses. And these are the kinds of things that generally learn how to do in this program, the kinds of real world situations where you can make a difference. And so one of the nice things about this area, Brian, was
yeah, oh, for sure.
how people can
Yeah.
actually make a difference.
Yeah, yeah, and then that's what and what's often difficult, particularly in large, complex enterprise settings, it's hard to see where these problems might be. In fact,
Yes.
that hospital example, they're probably thinking, "Hey, things are going great. We're cleaning the rooms, we're doing it efficiently." But actually, with some analysis and some of the statistical support, you can point out you can do this better. And
Yeah.
and I think that's what organizations really are looking for. They've got a lot of opportunity to generate more revenue, reduce costs, increase customer care, and it's all within the organization. They don't need to offer new products or anything. They just need to get better at what they're doing today.
Yeah. And they need to think differently. And the example I used, the, they thought they were being efficient with their money by paying one person
Right.
to do this low level job and not paying extra for additional personnel. But what they realized ultimately was that by taking on the extra labor cost of uh, those people, they could increase the throughput and revenue potential manyfold over the cost of that additional labor. So these
Yeah.
kinds of things are ways to think about quality and lean management in terms of efficiency, in terms of profitability, in terms of quality of service and how many people you're able to serve and what kind of benefits you can deliver to the world. So very satisfying area. Let's go on. Um, so Professor Robinson is the overall director of the program, along with Dr. Birch and, and at the School of Management, Eisenberg School of Management at UMass. They designed this curriculum to be aligned to what they hear from industry people need, what they hear from industry employers want. So they oversee the curriculum. That's the reason why they're able to put the name of the school onto the certificate. So this is a really good connection for us and for you as learners. So I wanted to mention, and this is a representation. You see this directly, Brian. This kind of
Mhm.
all-encompassing support. Can you talk about the different aspects here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, what Simplilearn has recognized is so important to focus on the learner and what they need in their learning journey. And that's delivered through a variety of different ways. We've got not just our instructors who are really sort of a core bedrock part of the learning experience, but we've got a program manager who looks at what the program offering is, making sure it's still reflective of what the market is looking for, what organizations and industry are interested in. We've got a cohort manager who's really going to ensure that that group of learners that are all starting their learning journey together, feels that camaraderie, that opportunity to kind of interact and collaborate. Of course, the curriculum and the resources are so important. These are constantly updated and refreshed by Simplilearn to make sure that they're using the latest technologies and applying the latest learnings and in how learners develop these skills. And then finding there's the learning teams and the peers that you're going to work with yourself, creating that community so you, as you're learning, can reach out to colleagues. And as I mentioned, from different places around the world, different industries, and learn from them through this whole process. So all of that sort of combines together to kind of enrich the entire learning experience, which I think is a big differentiator than what you would see with most other learning organizations. Simplilearn has really kind of benefited over its extensive experience, the number of students it's taught. It's really kind of learned and applied these techniques so effectively.
Yeah, and it's very different from the notion of I'm going to independently learn by looking at this material myself and
Right.
kind of doing it all on my own. It focuses on providing you with that all-encompassing support of people that are learning alongside you, people who are helping you live with your questions, people who are concerned with monitoring your progress and reminding you to stay on track, and all of those things that help you succeed. It's one of the
Right.
reasons why we have a very high success rate. Let's move to, I think this is the point where I wanted you to go ahead and share your screen
Yeah.
and show us what the learning management system looks like so we can see live some of these aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've been kind of going deep in sort of what the experience looks like. This is actually what you're going to be using. So this is the learning management system that Simplilearn has developed, and you saw, very much. Um, it's a very mature product, but a lot of awards that associated with it. So in this example here, we're looking at.
You're still on the
Oh, am I?
PowerPoint there.
Oh, my bad. Okay,
Oh,
sorry. No,
switch your
all right.
sharing
Yep.
there.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to. I think maybe I just was sharing the.
You were just sharing the one application.
I think so. How about now? Do we see it?
Perfect.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. So yeah, so this is the learning management system. So to get there, you're going to go to LMS, learningmanagementsystem.simplilearn.com. You're going to log in with your personalized ID. It's going to know who you are and what courses you have. It's going to keep track of your progress. In this particular example, we've got a number of different courses. So you're just going to see
Yeah,
what.
I just want to point out we're looking at a data analytics program just as a typical example of how to use the learning management system. So
Yeah, yeah,
yours
you're
will of course
looking.
be the UMass Lean Six Sigma.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So all these, and actually, what makes this program quite powerful is it's a very common look and feel. So if you've had some exposure to other Simplilearn products and learning experiences, this is going to fit that same experience. And each one of these tiles represent the courses that are available. Now, remember, we talked about this electives, so we can click on the electives area too and see these are the different alternatives you can continue to pursue. Again, things that you've already heard about. There's master classes that can be delivered by industry experts. So all those, I think I'd really encourage you to spend time with because I think they really enhance your learning. But bringing us back to the core material here, we click on one of these. I think I've got one up here right now. Here's our Lean Sigma Green Belt. So we've got a lot of different options here. We've got some self-learning that we can pursue. This
Hi,
is,
my name is
see,
Akil
there's
Hockett.
a really high quality, well-produced videos that you can follow. You can see we've got on the right-hand side, everything has been structured around a very easy to follow table of contents types flow. If you want to come back later to revisit something you might want to, get a refresher on, it's very easy to kind of go back and forth across these. It can pause at any point, just like when you're watching your Netflix show. You can pause it and come back to it at a later point. Just pick up where you left off. We have live classes. So not only can you follow the content through these videos, but you can enroll in a live class and you'll see a schedule that will appear. You can select the class that you want to attend and join that. And you've got flexibility to join different classes at different times. And then finally, when it's all said and done, what I think is really powerful tool, and this gets us back to getting you ready for taking something like a Lean Six Sigma certification exam. We've got simulations that are built into the system. So we've got, in this case, here's a 100-question Lean Six Sigma exam that we can take. We can take it now. It's going to start the timer, keep track of our progress, make sure we finish it within the time that's allocated. It's going to give you feedback on how you did on each one of the questions and your answers, so you can focus on areas that need a little bit more attention. And the same is going to be true when we look at some of those exercises, those capstone projects and other projects you're going to be using throughout the program. Each one of them is going to kind of outline a problem. You're going to get the tools necessary to kind of work on solving that problem. And then when you do that, you're going to get some feedback. So the whole idea here is we want to give you lots of different ways in which you're learning, different mechanisms to access that learning, and fit this into your lifestyle as you're managing all the other responsibilities that come with having a job, family, and everything else.
Correct. Can you show us what that community button up at the top does?
Yeah, absolutely. So another important part of this is the community you're part of. So what Simplilearn has done is they built out a very rich community environment where you can post questions based on particular cohorts or learning topics. There's a lot in this space, so you can navigate different forums. You can look at data science and business analytics, project management certification, agile, scrum, you name it, it's there. You've got your cohorts here. Each one you can click into. You've got an opportunity to engage with and connect with your instructors as well as your peers. And then if you need it, Simplilearn has 7x24 support available too. So it doesn't matter if you're around the world or it's late at night. If you need some help accessing information, need support with the resources, you always have a Simplilearn person available to help you.
Yeah, so each of your courses will have a board on this community forum that you can go to talk to your peers in that class, to talk to your professors, pose questions. Then you'll also have, like Brian said, 24/7 support from Simplilearn's support center, where you'll be able to pose questions and also ask about the operation or report any difficulties you have with the operation. If, for example, wish I had that with the Zoom that I'm having problems with the beginning of the session here, but so um, but thank you for that, Brian. Let's move
Okay,
back to the other presentation.
sure. Oops, sorry. Let me bring it back. Where did I leave it off? It's one of these slides. Here we go. Yeah. So do you want to talk a bit about?
Sure. So as you pointed out a couple times, the people you're going to be in the program with, you're going to join with a cohort, and this cohort is going to include people from many different companies, people who are working professionals. They're going to bring in their backgrounds, their experience. Um, they're going to, as you can see here, they draw into this program people from a wide range of industries. So it's not just people in manufacturing, it's not just people in information technology, it's people across the spectrum and from a wide range of employers as well. So you'll be able to get some industry networking, but also some great insights for what it's like to work in these different companies and what it is that these companies require in these areas. So that's a wonderful aspect of the program.
Absolutely.
And here's some testimonies. You can see more of these on our website, and we'll send you a link. to some of this information, but we have Kieran who talked about the quality of the curriculum and the content. We have Nehemiah who finished his program and is looking to develop as a Lean Six Sigma professional, focusing on this area for his career. Rosemary, who talked about the different tools that she learned, certificates she earned, and really focused on values she received from her faculty, her instructors, and her fellow learners. And finally, Aditya, who got a 30% salary hike, which is not a bad
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
And so, um, one of the things that we offer for people who are enrolling from India or from the USA, we have job assistance services available. So these services are provided in India through our partnership with IIM Jobs and in the USA through Talent Inc. We apologize that they're not currently available in other countries, but one of the things you get through this partnership is you get access to the respective job portals, which give you access to some unique job opportunities, but also give you a way to apply for jobs in a very discreet and confidential way. We also provide resume review and rewrite services, because resumes these days go to machines before they go to people. So you have your resume in a format that the AI bot can understand and extract your experience, your skills, your talents, and match them to the job descriptions. And then if you pass that filter, your resume will go in front of a human being. So it still has to be in a format that's easily digestible by humans and attractive to the eye. And then finally, the one-on-one interview service, because as you know, to get a job or a promotion, you need to pass through a whole series of interviews, ranging from the phone screen with HR to the technical interviews with your potential supervisor and peers to the management fit interviews that talk about your ability to be a team player and your work ethic. So all of these types of interviews require you to put a different part of yourself on display. Getting one-on-one practice with a real human being gives you that opportunity. So this is available to you for the 6 months after you earn your certificate. And again, it's not a job placement program, but it is a job assist program that'll help you with your job search. So to recap, uh, Brian, would you like to go through these points? And
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think that there's I think a pretty couple compelling reasons to consider this as a strong option if you're interested in pursuing a career in Lean Six Sigma. First off, is the fact it's been designed for your success. It's seeing this remarkable partnership between Simplilearn with its extensive experience in particularly kind of adult learning and leveraging all the infrastructure that they built, coupled with the University of Amherst, which are University of Massachusetts with Amherst, and how they've kind of crafted over, as you mentioned, 75 years of real world business experiences, and then KPMG, which is a leading consulting organization. So together, they have really partnered to kind of build something out that's going to meet the needs of their learners and the industries and the organizations that are looking for these skills. It is comprehensive, it is complete, it is thorough, and very importantly, it's flexible. So, both of us can relate to it is hard to kind of pursue these kind of certifications, these types of postgraduate program level educational sessions when you're working, when you have a family, when you've got an active lifestyle. So the fact that you can learn in so many different ways, I think really makes this very compelling for people.
thank you. So this is the time where we're going to ask, based on what you've heard so far, you haven't heard everything, but based on what you've heard so far, are you interested in enrolling in the program? I'll leave this open for just about 20 seconds. It's a yes or no question. I'll close it in about 10 and 3, 2, 1. Hit that submit button and So about 80% of the folks in our audience are interested in enrolling in the program. So let's tell you a little bit more about the things you want to know. We're showing here pricing in two countries. One is the United States, one is in India. The local pricing, you can email us at askussimplylearn.net. I'll put that into the chat, but you can ask us there about pricing in your local country, or you can go to our website, look at the program page to see what the pricing is. Now in the US, it's $2,299 license and equal monthly installments of 203 a month. It's 97,999 rupee in India, 8371 a month. We also like to remind people to ask their employers about tuition reimbursement because many people have a benefit from their company where the company will help defray some of the costs or all of the costs of continuing education. So that's always a great benefit to have, isn't it, Brian?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you can get your employer to help you with this. But part of that is because they see this as an investment in you as an employee that you're going to bring back to the organization. So I think their return on investment is pretty compelling, enabling their workers to kind of get the access to this learning.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing about the lean methodology and reducing waste. You can achieve return on investment on projects of that type of 100 to 1 or more.
Right.
And so investing in you so that you can come back and teach your company how to do that is a really great benefit. So if they aren't doing that for you, you might gently suggest to them that this is something they should do. Let's go on to the next one.
Sure. Enrollment steps.
So step is one is to submit an application. We'll review the application. You submit it by email at that email address below. I will put that into the chat. And the point is that we will verify your bachelor's degree and your work experience because those are prerequisites for the program. So we'll ask you to provide some verification for that. And then if you qualify, we will send you offer mission. Email's now in the chat. Oops, I'm sorry. No, the email's not in the chat.
It will be.
The reminder to put your questions in the Q&A is in the chat. Now the email's in the chat. And the next induction session happens next week, June 12th, for classes that start July 8th. When we say hurry, limited seats available, this is because unlike massively online open courses where any number of people can sign up because they're just watching pre-recorded material, this is a live classroom interaction type of program. So we can't take cohort sizes that are more than 25 or 30 people in order to be able to find sufficient time for the instructors to devote to each individual. So the cohorts fill up quickly. If you're interested in starting classes in July, please email us right away. And that brings up our next poll question, I think. If you are interested, how soon are you planning to start? Is that from you? Are you looking to start in this July classes? Are you looking to start further down the road? Would you like to know about cohort that starts in August or September, or would you like to be kept in the loop so you can look further down the road than that? And we always say, of course, if it's something that's worth doing that's going to improve your career and your life, it's worth doing sooner than later, but
It's true.
that's a personal choice, of course. And I will end the poll here. We'll share the result. So about 40% of our audience are interested in starting sometime in the July, August, September timeframe. For those of you looking further out, we recommend that you contact us at askussimplylearn.net anyway, because that will give us a chance to answer any questions you have, and then we'll be able to also keep you in the loop about future cohorts and future development. And for those of you who don't meet the 5-year criteria for joining this program, you can contact us at askus@simplilearn.net to ask about some of the other options you have for learning about this area. So um, let's go on to the Q&A.
Yeah.
Right now, we have a lot of things. I have to apologize to people because when Zoom kicked me off, I lost maybe some of the people in some of the
Oh,
messages in the chat. But I will go through the Q&A here, and then I'll go back into the chat and see what we can
okay.
find. Sheikh Mansour asks, which is better to learn, Lean Six Sigma or just Six Sigma? And is there
Uh,
a separate? Are they separate now?
Well, they are definitely can be viewed separately, but of course the reason they're brought together is because they complement each other so effectively. I think, generally speaking, if you learn one, you're probably going to learn a fair amount about the other. And I think a lot of it's going to depend on the domain you operate in. I will say Lean, I find, is something you can really apply everywhere. It's really about asking questions on what kind of waste are we experiencing, what kind of efficiencies do we want to identify, and that can be something you can do without a lot of statistical analysis. So you can just kind of look at how you're working and find better ways to do it. But Six Sigma is absolutely going to channel more of the statistical analysis, and just being somewhat open about this. And there's a little bit of math involved. Not everyone is as comfortable with that. But together, of course, they sort of become a force multiplier. So conventionally, we're going to learn both at the same time.
Yep. Will this be recognized worldwide? Absolutely. Both for the reputation of the University of Massachusetts Amherst, but also for KPMG's reputation, which is known worldwide. And KPMG, as I mentioned, operates in 140 countries. Also, Simplilearn, of course, is a worldwide organization. So yes, when people see this, they'll be able to refer back to the people who signed your certificate and understand that reputable organizations with a worldwide reputation uh, certify that you, in fact, are able to do the things you say you can do. I had a question about Six Sigma and software development, Lean Six Sigma and software development. Can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is widely used in the software development domain. Big part of this is you mentioned, you heard me mention Agile. Agile is used extensively in software development and digital transformation activities, and Lean's really important in that. Hey, we're trying to find ways in which we can rapidly understand, features that a customer might want in a software product, find ways in which we can rapidly build and deploy those into kind of a production environment they can leverage. And then for larger, more complex pieces of software, think of an Amazon with its Amazon Web Services, or just the products they offer, or Google. Six Sigma becomes really powerful because you get all this rich data that's flowing in, and you can use that to analyze, how responsive is your software? How are people using your software? Are they kind of using it the way that was intended? And if not, what can you do to kind of improve their experience? So yes, Lean Six Sigma used extensively in the software development domain.
Yeah, in fact, as you mentioned, Agile kind of flows out of the software development domain, and it flows out for the reason that um, previously waterfall methods of managing software projects would lead to a lot of waste because you get to the end of a project phase and realize that the requirements had changed.
Right. Yeah.
Where so by changing the way software development was done, the amount of wasted effort was changed,
Exactly. Exactly.
saved. Um, Quality assurance engineer. How can I make myself more perfect with Lean Six Sigma for a better future? So that's kind of an introspective question, but what are the things that this adds to a quality assurance engineer's kind of
Oh yeah.
well-rounded toolkit?
Absolutely. Well, as a quality assurance engineer, of course, you're interested in understanding how can we ensure, as you mentioned, quality is embedded in the work that we're doing. And And one of the important things that Lean identifies, Lean's all about identifying waste. What are sources of waste? Well, it could be defects, right? We want to minimize the number of defects. And as a quality assurance engineer, you're trying to do the same thing. So Lean's going to help us leverage tools, techniques like the DMAIC that we heard about to help you better understand where to focus your time to improve and increase those efficiencies, reduce defects. The Six Sigma part of this is going to give you techniques to kind of analyze the data that might help you better understand as a quality assurance engineer, where are your processes? Are you kind of conforming to that Six Sigma standard? And if you aren't, figuring out, okay, where do we have outliers? Let's dig into those. Let's understand, why those are occurring. What can we do to prevent them from happening again? So there's absolutely no question. If you are in quality assurance, you really need to have Lean Six Sigma in your toolbox because it's an important tool you can be leveraging all the time.
Um, Question about, can you talk a little bit about what Jira is for?
Sure, sure. Yeah. And you might not have come across this. Jira is it's a product offered by a company called Atlassian. Atlassian is based on Australia. They have a number of products. Jira specifically is a work management product. So think about, if you've got tickets coming into a help desk queue, or you've got maybe a product that has features that you want to keep track of, assign to people, have them provide updates on their progress. So that's what Jira is used for. It's kind of help organization just track how they respond to issues and deliver features and enhancements to their products. And it would be similar to if you've had some exposure to products like perhaps Azure DevOps. Well, ADO, Jira, very similar in how they work together. There's quite a few other products out there in the market. I would say Jira is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest, top three for sure in this space. And this is, again, why Simplilearn's identified it as an important product to get some exposure to and some experience with, because you're going to find it used in so many different organizations.
Thank you. We have a question from someone who's Kumar is a postgrad in industrial engineering, took Lean Six Sigma as part of their quality engineering course. Um, is this going to take him in more depth, and is it valuable to him?
Yeah, I mean, this might be a good place to spend a little time with the Simplilearn learning consultants. They can help you get a better understanding of the details of the course, because we'd have to compare it with what you've learned already. But here is, I think, the part that you might not have had as much exposure to if you're a postgrad in industrial engineering is these master classes, the partnership you're going to have with leading industry experts from KPMG. That is an experience that I don't think you're going to be able to find in many other settings. So my intuition is telling me that this is going to deeply enrich that foundation that you already have. And I think you'd probably get a lot from this, as well as the ability to apply it to these real world, very contemporary examples that we're going to leverage.
We have another question from someone who has a master's in project management.
Okay.
Is this a good complement to that?
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, if you've got a master's in project management, and I say this as a person who does spend a lot of time the project management van, do a lot of work with Project Management Institute. This is a fantastic fit. I use Lean Six Sigma practices all the time in my project and program delivery. So it's an indispensable tool to have in your toolkit if you work in that space.
Right. And we mentioned U.S. and India for some of the services we provide and pricing. For people in other regions and other countries, this is available worldwide. Delivery is digital, and you can access it from anywhere in the world. The main difference here is that we don't provide the job assist program outside the US and India. It's one of the aspects of the program. But for every other aspect of the program, it's there, it's available to you. And again, to find out about the pricing, you can either email us at askus@simplylearn.net, or you can go to our website, and I'll share the URL for that page shortly. Uh, Admission is through email first. That is correct. You do send us an email, and the learning consultant will let you know what other information needs to be sent. And let's go into the chat because that takes me to the bottom of the Q&A. Go in the chat and see. If you're a data science, you're in a data scientist course, is Six Sigma important?
Yeah, I think the simple answer is yes, absolutely. Data scientists, of course, are working with a lot of data, and Six Sigma is going to be an invaluable tool to help you really understand, how to interpret that data. And is this data, conforming to what you would expect in terms of different ranges, and where do you want to focus on outliers that might be affecting or influencing your process performance. So yeah, no question about that. If you're a data scientist, you'd find a lot of value in using or leveraging some of these Six Sigma techniques.
Okay. I had a question that I'm not sure that I'm familiar with the term. Will it help in cold chain management? Do you recognize that term?
I have to confess it's not one I'm immediately familiar with, but we
Okay.
can certainly speak to supply chain management. And again, if there's a relationship between cold chain and supply chain, the simple answer is absolutely you're going to use these techniques in a variety of different ways. If you think of supply chain, we really want to find areas that we can improve the efficiency of. So anytime we're seeing a supply chain where there's wait times, waiting for products to kind of get loaded or shipped, things like that, we want to find ways that we can reduce those wait times. We want to again look at our sort of our performance using that bell curve that we're all familiar with, and ensure that the majority of our shipments are within that acceptable range. Maybe we've got a contractual commitment, Amazon, and it's same day delivery. Well, they're probably studying pretty closely how many things are delivered in that same day, how many things are falling outside of the window, what can we do to kind of get those back in the window. So yes, supply chain uses these techniques extensively.
Okay, and I'm going to ask one last question because we've gone over time, but uh, Ervalda asks, do you still need Lean Six Sigma since we have AI methods like ChatGPT that can help us in our work?
Well, I think you kind of answered that question a little earlier, didn't you? When you said, hey, right now ChatGPT has a pretty high error rate.
Mhm.
Now, we would use these techniques to identify how can we both understand where those errors are coming from, how can we find ways that can reduce those errors. So there's no doubt about it. Behind the scenes of every good ChatGPT are going to be a collection of different skill sets, ensuring what it's producing and sharing to its customers is accurate. And I think this is where it's going to be so important to have these skills.
Yeah, there's a recent example of a nonprofit organization that wanted to improve the efficiency of delivery of advice to people, young people with eating disorders.
Hmm.
Um, and they came up with a chatbot that would allow people to interact with it so that they didn't have to have as many human counselors answering the phone. It's a great idea. The problem is that the chatbot would do things like tell people who were asking about anorexia, which is the inability to eat or the disinclination to eat enough. They're telling things about how to go on a diet. Very quickly, they realized this chatbot was doing far more harm than good,
Right.
and they went back to their old way of doing things. But when we talk about what artificial intelligence will be able to do in the future, there are two things to know. One is it's not there yet.
Hmm.
And two, when it is there, the people who know how to use it will be able to apply it into whatever field they're in. So, in order to be able to use it effectively in quality management, you have the grounding in Lean Six Sigma so that you understand what it is you want the AI to do for you and so that you can understand whether it's doing the right thing and what advice to take from it. So, with that, I want to move on to our last question for our audience. last question for our audience is, those of you who are interested in program, would you like us to reach out directly to you? Leave this open for just another 10 seconds. The numbers are changing a little bit. 3, 2, 1. And so a little over half of you would like that, and we will have one of our learning consultants reach out to you. In the meantime, for the rest of you, please reach out to us through the email, and I'll put into the chat again that email address along with the web page URL for our program page. Be able to see things there like what's the chat? Oh, here I am. Your local currency and price information will be there, and you'll also be able to contact us through the web page as well. So there's the URL along with the email address. The QR code can take you to that URL as well. And that brings us to the end of our webinar. I want to thank Brian for being extremely helpful, generous with his time and knowledge, and especially patient with all of the glitches that I was having up front. So I really thank you for that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Great experience. Love the questions, engagement. So, for those who are still with us, thanks so much for attending. It was a great experience.
And again, we will be sending you a follow-up email with a link to this recording, so that you'll be able to watch Zoom torture me for a while before we get into the material. And I want to thank every one of you for being here, taking time out of your day, your evening, your morning to join us to find out about this program. We hope we can welcome you into our learning community with the University of Massachusetts at Amherst and Simplilearn. That concludes our webinar. So thank you so much.
Take care.